Amana S Series Installation and Commissioning Technical Training Module TRV 6.3 Cased Coils. This material provides technical information that is only to be used by appropriately trained and certified HVACR installers and technicians who have agreed to the terms and conditions available here at https://www.daikinb2b termsofuse.html. If you have not agreed to these terms and conditions, you may not use or view this material, and you assume responsibility for any injury or property, system, or equipment damage which may result. If you have agreed to these terms, you also agree by viewing or using this material that this material, by its nature, cannot include a discussion of everything necessary to effect a proper installation or repair of HVACR equipment, nor can it address every possible scenario or environment a technician or installer may encounter. Accordingly, this material should not be considered as recommendations for the best practices and will not be considered to the extent of any conflict with Daikin or Goodman issued manuals and specifications or industry standards and regulations. Each installer or technician remains fully responsible for any injury or property, system, or equipment damage which may result from your installation. Copyright 2023, Daikin Comfort Technologies North America, Inc. All rights reserved. Recording, copying, or distributing of this material is prohibited without written permission from Daikin. The following training does not include A2L connections, but still applies to installation and commissioning. The agenda for this training is as follows. Installation, additional transformer for printed circuit board, control panel and wiring, and dip switches. Let's start with installation. Horizontal right and horizontal left installations, front view. The CHPE coil is bidirectional and can be installed in either a left or right direction. CHPE coils are designed for indoor installation only and are installed on the discharge air side of a furnace. They should be installed on the return air side of a modular blower. The coil must be installed with the line set and drain openings to the front of the furnace or modular blower. The procedure for installing a 90+ gas furnace. There should be a 1/2 to 3/4 inch tilt toward the front of the furnace and level from end to end. When in an attic, it is always best practice to install an auxiliary drain pan under the indoor unit. Duct flange attachment. There is no conversion required to reverse from right to left application. Attach the duct flanges to the discharge side of the unit. If the coil and furnace combination are not similar in depth and width, use a field-supplied transition to center the furnace and coil openings. Z-bracket attachment. The supplied Z-bracket attachment should be used to attach the coil to a narrower furnace when a furnace is one size smaller than the coil. For example, the coil height is 21 inches and the furnace width is 17.5 inches. Stiffening or shipping bracket removal. Prior to installation, remove the stiffening or shipping bracket spanning the A-coil apex to the rear of the wrapper or cabinet on all models. The bottom of the duct flange for the supply plenum side is shipped unattached. Carefully insert the flange into the bottom rail and use a 5/16 inch screw to attach at the middle of the flange. Screw the side flanges with field-supplied 5/16" screws on the supply plenum side. Z-bracket hardware and bracket kit. Using the hardware and brackets provided, attach the coil to the furnace and the plenum to the coil. Sealing along the panel gap. If the plenum and furnace openings are the same size, the filler plates must be removed. Note: apply field-provided insulation tape along all joining surfaces to prevent the cabinet from condensating. Remove the control panel from the right front panel of the coil to prevent component wiring damage. Removing the control panel allows the wiring to be safely pushed through the panel wireway. Remove the 4 screws to detach the control panel from the right front panel. A cased coil is shipped containing nitrogen gas under 150 pounds of pressure. Release pressure from the gas piping pressure release device before starting piping work. When brazing the indoor coil, make sure to protect the pipe going to the coil by wrapping it with a wet cloth or thermal protection paste. This will protect the heat from transferring to the pipe and damaging the sensors on the indoor coil piping. Always purge dry nitrogen through the refrigerant tubing while brazing to prevent oxidation and scaling on the inside of the tube. Purge lines with 20 psi of nitrogen for approximately 15 to 30 seconds. Then lower the pressure to 1.5 to 3 psi to maintain the purge while brazing. A secondary, or Port B, condensate drain connection is provided for areas where local codes require it. In a blow-through application, meaning the coil is mounted on the discharge side of the air handler or furnace, the drain trap prevents conditioned air from escaping. The depth of a running trap should be either 1 inch or a depth that permits unrestricted condensate drainage without excessive air discharge. It is permissible in this application to use a shallow trap design, referred to as a running trap. In a draw-through application, such as a coil being mounted to the inlet side of an air handler, the drain trap prevents air from being drawn back through the drain lines during fan operation. This prevents condensation from draining, and if the drain line is connected to a sewer line, it prevents sewer gases from being drawn into the airstream during blower operation. Additional transformer for the printed circuit board. Transformer installation. Additional transformer to power the cased coil control panel printed circuit board. A transformer is shipped with the electronic expansion valve coil and will be mounted in the gas furnace and the MBVC. The purpose of this transformer is to power the printed circuit board on the electronic expansion valve coil. The kit contains 2 brackets that allow the transformer to be installed inside the furnace cabinet. Brackets are labeled A and B. Here's a chart showing the models and whether you use bracket A, bracket B, or no bracket is required. The installation instructions that come with the expansion valve coil show the proper way to mount the transformer. Mounting bracket A inside the furnace. This diagram shows bracket A mounted behind the factory-installed furnace transformer. And this diagram shows the cased coil printed circuit board transformer also mounted to transformer bracket A. Mounting bracket B inside of the furnace. This diagram shows bracket B mounted behind the factory-installed furnace transformer. And this diagram shows the cased coil printed circuit board transformer also mounted to transformer bracket B. Wiring the printed circuit board transformer using furnace power. Use the red and black wires provided in the transformer kit. Connect one end of the red and black wires to the high voltage side of the transformer, common and 120 volts AC. Connect the other end of the red and black wires to the power source in the furnace high voltage junction box. Optional. Communicating furnace printed circuit boards have high voltage accessory terminals that will allow the transformer to be powered from the furnace board if that connection's not being used by another accessory. Transformer wiring using furnace power. This transformer supplies 24 volts AC to the coil printed circuit board via the yellow and purple wires in the transformer kit. Do not supply high voltage to the EEV coil printed circuit board because it will cause the printed circuit board to fail. Control panel and wiring. The CAPE and CHPE control module. Control module is mounted on the exterior of the casing and is pre-wired. Verify that the plugs and wires are secure on the board before powering the system. Here is the location of the low voltage connections on the CAPE and CHPE printed circuit boards. Auxiliary alarm. The 24-volt auxiliary alarm switch communicating setup only. Primarily to be used for a condensate switch input. You must remove the jumper before adding the condensate switch. Auxiliary switch is normally closed. The switch opens when the water level in the evaporator coil base pan has reached an undesirable level. The auxiliary alarm will respond by turning off the outdoor unit and displaying EEF on the LED display. If the auxiliary switch is detected closed for 30 seconds, normal operation will resume, and the error message will no longer be displayed. In the Amana Smart Thermostat Dealer Edit menu, under Equipment Setup, select the furnace and then select Add Alarm. On an MBVC air handler, the condensate alarm switch, labeled CAS, terminals can only be used with communicating mode setups and must be enabled with a communicating thermostat. In the Amana Smart Thermostat Dealer Edit menu, under Equipment Setup, select the equipment and then select Add Alarm. Dip switches. The CAPE and CHPE control board dip switch operation. Here is a list of the factory default dip switch settings for dip switch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And here is the location of those dip switches on a circuit board. Switch bank dip switch 4 electronic expansion valve settings. S15 must be set to on for the CAPE and CHPE electronic expansion valves to operate in normal conditions. S16 is not used. Thank you for joining us for Amana S Series Installation and Commissioning Technical Training Module TRV 6.3 Cased Coils. We hope this information has been helpful. Please join us for the final module in this series, Module TRV 6.4 AHVE Air Handler.